I never thought I'd say this out loud, but here it goes. I felt more alone married than I ever did when I was single. I'm Ethan. I'm 36. I manage a gym in Phoenix, Arizona. Been there for 12 years. I'm not some motivational speaker or influencer. I just help people move better, feel better, and push through their day. That's what I do. I fix things, bodies, schedules, even moods. Except I couldn't fix my own marriage. Claire and I met at a friend's birthday barbecue back in 2015. She was smart, quick-witted, had this sarcastic charm that drew people in. She worked as a school counselor, one of those people who always asked how you were doing, but rarely shared anything about herself unless she wanted to make a point. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it felt like a good balance. I was the calm, grounded guy. She was the passionate, lively one. The early years were decent. We laughed, traveled a bit, had spontaneous nights out. There was heat. There was connection. Then things just started drying up. It's hard to say exactly when. Maybe around our 3rd anniversary. That's when the intimacy started disappearing. Not gradually. It was more like someone flipped a switch and didn't bother flipping it back on. At first, I thought it was work stress. She had a tough case with a suicidal teen, and it hit her hard. Understandably, I gave her space. I tried being supportive, foot rubs, cooking dinner, cleaning the house without her asking. I figured if I kept showing up, she'd come around. The connection would come back. It didn't. A few months turned into a year. She barely touched me anymore. Hugs became side hugs. Kisses became pecks. Sex? Maybe once every couple of months. And even then, it felt more like an obligation than a desire. I brought it up once, gently. I didn't accuse her. I just asked, "Hey, are you okay with where we're at? I feel like something's missing." She sighed and said, "Ethan, I'm just tired. I don't think about that stuff the way men do. It's not a big deal." I dropped it, but inside I was starving. See, people think men only talk about this stuff because of sex. And yeah, sex matters, it does. But it's more than that. It's about feeling wanted, desired, chosen. When a woman you love looks at you like you're just a roommate with a shared mortgage and a clogged sink to fix, that's soul-crushing. I tried again 6 months later. Took her out to a nice steakhouse. Wore cologne I hadn't used in a while. Played the part. We had wine, we laughed. I thought maybe things were shifting. Back home, I kissed her in the hallway. She kissed me back for 2 seconds, then pulled away and said, "I'm sorry. I just don't get horny like that anymore." Just like that. Like someone reading a weather report. I stood there for a second, stunned. I wasn't even mad at first. I was just empty. That sentence hit me harder than anything I've ever heard. It wasn't that she wasn't in the mood that night. It was that she didn't feel it at all. And worse, she said it like I should be okay with it. I didn't argue. I didn't guilt her. I just nodded and went to sleep on the couch. That became my new normal. Couch bed, cold shoulders, quiet meals. And that's where Natalie comes in. Claire's younger sister. She's 28, works in digital marketing, just got out of a long-term relationship. She needed a place to crash for a few weeks while looking for a new apartment. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I said okay. Claire was excited to have her sister around. They hadn't lived under the same roof since college. Natalie came in like a whirlwind. Loud, confident, always barefoot, always leaving Spotify playlists on in the living room. She'd talk during every movie, eat cereal straight from the box, and wear these oversized shirts around the house like it was her dorm. She was the opposite of Claire in almost every way, loose, unfiltered, and expressive. At first, I kept my distance, gave her space. She gave me a few side eyes when she realized I was sleeping on the couch, but didn't say anything. But after a few days, she started poking. "You two always live like this?" she asked one night while grabbing a beer from the fridge. I shrugged. Claire's been tired a lot lately. She raised an eyebrow. She's always tired. Even when she was 19, she was too tired for anything that wasn't about her. I didn't answer. Later that week, I came home from work around 9 p.m. Claire was in the bedroom, already asleep. I heated up leftovers and sat in the kitchen alone. I didn't even have the energy to turn on the TV. Natalie walked in wearing one of those long sleeve shirts, nothing underneath from the looks of it, and poured herself a glass of water. She leaned against the counter, looked at me for a moment, and said, "So she told you she doesn't get horny anymore, huh?" I stopped mid-chew. I didn't even ask how she knew. Sisters talk. Whatever. I nodded slowly. Yeah. She tilted her head, almost like she felt sorry for me. Then she said, and what? You're just supposed to live like a monk now. Because she tapped out. I didn't say a word. She stepped a little closer, her voice low, eyes locked on mine. Then let me. I froze. My heart was beating out of my chest. Every fiber of me knew this was wrong. This was twisted. But it was also the first time in years someone looked at me like that. Not with judgment, not with boredom, but with fire. I stood up and walked out. Didn't say a thing. I went outside, stood in the dark by the pool, staring at the water like it could give me an answer. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, but because for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. That scared me more than anything else. I didn't plan for anything to happen. I swear to God, I didn't. When Natalie looked at me in that kitchen and said, then let me, I walked away. My body wanted to stay, yeah, but my mind was screaming, get out now. So I did. I left the room, stood outside by the pool for over an hour, just breathing and trying not to spiral. I felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, half terrified, half tempted. But temptation doesn't vanish just because you say no once. Especially not when the one woman you should feel wanted by acts like you're a ghost in your own damn house. After that night, things between me and Natalie got weird. Not uncomfortable, but electric. Everything had a charge to it. The air, the eye contact, the silences. She stopped pretending she wasn't into me. And I stopped pretending I didn't notice. Claire, of course, didn't see any of it. She never really saw anything outside of her own stress bubble. She'd come home from work, flop on the couch with takeout, complain about her day, then disappear into the bedroom and lock the door behind her, sometimes even before 9 p.m. No hug. No, how was your day? No, nothing. It was like living with a co-worker you barely get along with. Except that co-worker used to be the love of your life. And Natalie? She filled every gap Claire left behind. She made dinner once, spaghetti and garlic bread, nothing fancy. But it was hot, on the table, with 2 plates set like that used to mean something in our house. She cracked jokes, called me out on stuff, asked real questions. And she started wearing less and less around the house. Not in a trashy way, in a deliberate way. Loungewear that didn't cover much. No bra, tank tops that slipped off the shoulder just enough to make me notice. Always barefoot, always close. One night, about 2 weeks after that night in the kitchen, Claire told me she was going out for a girls' weekend in Sedona. Some spa getaway with her co-workers. Left Friday after lunch and said she'd be back Sunday evening. No goodbye kiss. Just a distracted wave and don't forget to feed the dog. So that was it. Me, Natalie, an empty house, 2 full nights. I should have left, gone to a buddy's place, stayed with my cousin, anything, but I didn't. Friday night, I got home from work late, walked into the house and smelled something good, like garlic and onions and red wine. Natalie was in the kitchen again, barefoot, as usual, wearing one of those sleep shirts that barely hit mid-thigh. She smiled. Hope you're hungry. I was starving for food, for attention, for someone to look me in the eyes and see me. We sat at the kitchen table eating pasta, drinking wine, laughing about some old reality show she made me watch. It was easy, fun, warm, something I hadn't felt in years. After dinner, we moved to the couch, put on a movie. I can't even remember what it was. I didn't watch a second of it. My mind was in chaos. I kept replaying that moment in the kitchen. The words, the way she said them. And now, sitting next to her, the space between us felt too small for the weight in the air. Then she said it, out of nowhere. Can I ask you something? You don't have to answer. I looked at her. Okay. Do you still think about her? About what it used to be like? I paused. That was a loaded question. I didn't know if she meant emotionally, sexually, or just in general. But I answered honestly. Every day, I said. Not because I want to, but because I don't recognize who she is anymore. And I don't know what happened to the woman I married. Natalie nodded. Her voice softened. I watched her treat you like a joke. I sat at that table, heard the way she said it, and I wanted to scream. I kept thinking, if I had someone who looked at me the way you looked at her, I'd never take that for granted. The words hit me like a punch. Then she leaned in, not aggressively, not dramatically, just slowly, softly. She put her hand on my cheek and kissed me. For a split second, I froze. My heart was hammering. Every nerve in my body lit up. I wanted to pull away, say no, be noble. But I didn't. I kissed her back. And that was the line. The one I swore I'd never cross. We moved together like two people who had waited too long. It wasn't wild or dirty or rushed. It was intimate, careful, like two people trying to hold each other together after falling apart for too long. Afterward, we sat in silence. I ran my hand through my hair, trying to catch my breath. She rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond, because I wasn't sure if I was sorry. I just felt alive again. I didn't sleep much that night. Every sound in the house made me jump. The fridge kicking on, the dog scratching his ear, the AC ticking. I wasn't afraid of getting caught. Claire was gone. I was afraid of what it meant. Because I knew, deep down, this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a turning point. Saturday came and went like a blur. Natalie and I barely spoke, like we both needed to process what happened. But the way she looked at me said it all. She wasn't ashamed. She felt closer, safer, like we'd shared something secret, something too fragile to put into words yet. Sunday night, Claire came home. She dropped her bags, gave me a distracted nod, and walked past me into the bedroom. 5 minutes later, she was in bed, scrolling on her phone, back to the wall. No kiss. No missed you. No nothing. And for the first time, I didn't feel rejected. I felt free, because now I understood something I'd been denying for months. She stopped choosing me a long time ago. And now, I had stopped choosing her too. They say if you tell the truth, you won't have to remember anything. That's true. But when the truth finally comes out, no one ever talks about how heavy it feels once it's sitting in the room with you. After that weekend with Natalie, I knew there was no going back. Not just because of what we did, but because of what it revealed. See, what happened between us wasn't just sex. That would have been easier to process, actually. It was the connection, the way she looked at me, the way I laughed again without faking it, the way I felt like a human being and not a burden. I didn't feel guilt the way people think you're supposed to after cheating. I felt pain, a lot of it, but it wasn't from crossing the line. It was from realizing how far gone my marriage already was and how long I'd been lying to myself. When Claire got home that Sunday night, nothing felt different on her end. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked her shoes off, and said, "There's a leftover wrap in the fridge if you're hungry." That was her way of saying hello. I watched her walk into our bedroom, phone in hand, face already lit by Instagram. It was like she hadn't been gone at all, like I didn't exist. And for the first time, I didn't go after her. I didn't try to connect, didn't ask about her trip, didn't force conversation like I always had. I just stood there, in my own living room, finally accepting the truth. We weren't married anymore. We were just two people waiting for someone to say it out loud. The next few days were silent. Not tense, just empty, like a house no one lives in, even though the lights are still on. Natalie didn't act strange. She gave me space. But we both knew the elephant was there, taking up every inch of air. And then Wednesday happened. I got home from work a little later than usual. Walked into the house, dropped my gym bag near the door. Claire was sitting at the kitchen table. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her mouth was tight. She had my phone in her hand. My stomach sank. She didn't speak right away, just held it up like a cop flashing a warrant. "I saw the text," she said, barely above a whisper. "From Natalie. Last night felt like something I haven't felt in years. I hope you felt it too." Boom. There it was. No more pretending. No more walking around it. No more silence. I stood still. Didn't deny it. What was the point? I just said, yeah. That's all. She stared at me, eyes wide, waiting. For me to beg? Apologize? Cry? I don't know. She said, "You cheated on me. With my sister, Ethan." I nodded. I did. She stood up, pushed the chair back hard enough that it screeched across the tile. Her hands were shaking, her whole body tense like she was holding back a scream. "How could you do that to me?" Now, that sentence, that lit something in me. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You stopped touching me over a year ago. You mocked me in front of your friends. You made me sleep on the couch. You told me you don't get horny anymore. You didn't ask how I felt. You didn't care. You just expected me to wither away, quietly while you emotionally checked out of this marriage. And now you're mad that someone actually saw me. She looked like I slapped her. You don't get to play the victim, Claire, I said, keeping my voice calm. You left a long time ago. You just didn't pack your bags. She stormed off into the bedroom and slammed the door. I slept on the couch again, but this time I didn't feel hurt. I felt clear. The next day, Natalie was gone, left a note on the counter. Said she was sorry, but she couldn't stay in the house anymore. That was too much. That she never meant to cause chaos. I don't know where she went. I didn't reach out. Part of me wanted to, but another part of me knew the damage was already done, and this wasn't about her anymore. This was about me finally standing up for myself. Later that week, Claire tried to talk. Sat me down in the same kitchen where all of this began. She cried. A lot. Told me she felt disconnected for years. That she didn't know how to communicate her loss of desire without making me feel like less of a man. That she thought I'd be patient forever. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I just didn't know how to fix it. I nodded. I know, but you never tried. And then I said the words I'd been needing to say for months. This marriage is over. You don't respect me. I don't trust you. And I sure as hell don't want to keep living like this. She begged. For the first time in forever, she begged. Said she'd go to therapy. Said she'd work on things. Said we could heal together. But I was already gone. Not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I'd left a long time ago. Just like she did. The only difference was I finally admitted it out loud. I filed for divorce a few days later. That was 6 months ago. I've got my own apartment now. Quiet place with wood floors and a view of South Mountain. Duke, our dog, lives with me. Claire didn't even fight for him. The gym's doing well. I picked up extra shifts. Started running boot camps on Saturdays. Being around people, working their bodies hard, hearing them push through pain, it reminds me that healing isn't passive. You have to choose it, over and over again. And Natalie? We haven't spoken since she left. I don't blame her. What we did was messy, impulsive, wrong in a lot of ways. But I'll never forget what she gave me. That moment of clarity. That reminder that I was still a man. Still capable of being seen, touched, wanted. As for Claire, she texted me 2 weeks ago. Said she missed me. That she thinks about me every night. That she didn't know how broken things were until I left. I didn't reply. Because now, I know who I am. And I'm done waiting around for people who forget that.